Welcome to another episode of the Girl Dad Show. I'm super excited to introduce you to Joel as my guest today. Joel, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm super excited. Let's jump right in, man, because there's a lot to talk about here. Why don't you tell the listeners who you are and what you do for a living?
Yeah. So my name's Joel Flory. I was co-founder and now Executive Chairman of VSCO, which was kind of what I've done the last 15 years. And in this kind of, I transitioned out as CEO almost a little over 2 years ago now. And so currently I'm doing a lot of executive coaching. I'm also doing a lot of advising and mentoring and helping get a few new things off the ground, but not looking to jump back into operating, just kind of in the incubating side of things.
That's awesome, man. And we have a lot to talk about because we have a mutual relationship here that we share here. And it's super fun to be interviewing you because I've heard a lot about you from my sister, Julie, who's you've got a chance to work with intimately, right?
Oh, I mean, it's literally, you can think of your life in a series of chapters.
Yeah.
And like, there will always be a chapter defined by Julie. I remember the very first day she walked in for an interview. And you have to like think of VSCO. It's this super introverted, is about as monochromatic as it could get as far as like an office with like simple materials and in walks just sparkles is probably the best way to like put it. It was like every color under the rainbow. Yeah. And I think, it was for a couple of years, got to work alongside Julie and was definitely absolutely one of the highlights of my career. And I think one of those like stepping point functions in myself, which we can kind of get into, but she definitely has a superpower of unlocking people, which was, I just feel very fortunate. So.
Wow, that's awesome, man. I mean, you don't know this, but I'm very competitive with her, so I'm like happy to hear it, but simultaneously just like great, like slightly annoyed at the same time.
I think it's one of those things like if you're competitive with her, it's it's only going to help you improve because I think it's one of those things where I don't think it's a zero-sum game in any way, shape, or form. And we'll get into it kind of like with kids. It's always something I'm trying to like constantly teach. Like, be the best version of yourself, and it's not about kind of how you match up against your sibling. So.
That's awesome, man. Let's jump into it. Well, talk to me about your kids.
Yeah, so I have two daughters, junior and freshman in high school.
Nice.
And yeah, it's definitely the younger one was born literally like let's see, March, 2 months after launching VSCO.
No
so
way.
You can kind of like define, I think constantly as I'm like looking at her, it's like constantly like, that's how long this has been going on, or this is like my work life. Yeah. And I think it's interesting. I think in the same way that my professional career has been a journey of development and growth, parenthood has been the exact same. And I think it's something I've just absolutely loved. And I think each one's made the other better. My professional development's made me a better father, and my kids and wife have 100% actually been the driver of making me a better leader. And so it's been really kind of cool to see those two kind of intersect.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. There's like times in which my business decisions are actually led by where I'm learning and growing as a parent, or what I'm learning professionally, I like start to bring home. Although my kids have like, so what book is this from, Dad? Or what podcast did you listen to today that you're now bringing this up on the car ride home?
Yeah.
So they've definitely figured me out.
That's amazing. Does your wife appreciate it when you bring the business to the family? Or
I think if you look at it kind of, if you zoom out of where it's gotten me, yes. I think there's definitely been some bumpy moments along the way as I'm like figuring it out.
Yeah.
Kind of the messy middle, if you will.
Totally.
And so, I think in the end, she would, if you were to talk to her, she would say, yes, like it's definitely improved who I am. But I think there was the early years of like starting VSCO with, a toddler and a newborn and having never led a company before. It was rough. And it's kind of like my health took a toll. Just kind of everything suffered. And I think the problem that you often find is that you leave everything for your job and your business and you come home exhausted. So it was actually a few years in, midway in, that I started like prioritizing first myself, then my family, and then VSCO. And it was interesting. It was like a turning point for all three improved.
Oh, wow.
And so, it's kind of like it, there is no work-life balance. There is no separation. It's just kind of like trying to make the most of everything. And that prioritization framework was like really critical. And read a book called Essentialism by Greg McKeown that was kind of the impetus of like diving into that, like what matters most. Life is chaotic.
Yeah.
Everything is kind of not working the way I think it should. And that was kind of like the driver of like, all right, I'm going to focus on three things. And some of my friendships suffered, but we basically like, it was my health and myself came first, then my family, and then work. And if it didn't fall into one of those three buckets, I just got really great at saying no to it. So,
wow. And was this like a gradual change, or did you just like one day read the book?
I'm a
had the
pretty
epiphany?
like obsessive personality. So like I
Yeah.
kind of like read something and I'm like all in like the next
Oh,
day.
yeah?
It's like, I would say the like effectiveness of it kind of was a little more gradual. And I think like 6 months to a year in, I think I kind of really understood the right balance of it all, but it was definitely a learning process.
Did you lose people when you made this change? That's a big change.
Well, not entirely. I think like certain friendships that were driven, like it was interesting through the kids' school, a lot of the friends were either friends of the family, so that still fit. And we kind of like, we did this, sorry, my headphones are like, keep popping out, but we defined like what success looked like for our family. Like we kind of like what matters most. And we said the quantity of quality time. So everything we focused on was the amount of time the four of us spent together.
Cool. The
and it was-
quantity
it was-
of quality time. So it's not just qualifying the quality, it's also having more of what you guys qualified.
More of it. So faced with any decision, what can we do right now? Is there a chance for the four of us to do something of quality time? And we would prioritize that. And so I got really great at like saying, okay, if my family's coming along, so like a lot of work trips for like speaking engagements overseas, great, but my family's coming. This is
Cool.
like, we're combining this, like, because this is what we do, and this is how we're defining kind of like where we'll make our investment of time. What kind of lost was just some of my guy friends. And there was ways, so I had my own time, and I really tried to focus on early mornings. And so a lot of like my guy time was playing soccer or the gym, because it kind of coincided with me taking care of myself. I physically just kind of, wasn't doing great. And so, I just got really regimented with that. But it was good. I mean, I think over time I found better balance. I think I was a little like black and white of like, if it didn't fit the exact rule, I said no. And I think I like constantly kind of brought more things back in.
Oh, over time.
Over time.
So it was like a
little bit.
reset and then you adjusted.
Yeah, I would constantly, actually, it was interesting. A lot of this like started, okay, I'll take a quick step back. I mentioned one of the like chapters in my life would be defined by your sister. Another chapter in my life would be defined by a woman by the name of Katie Shields, who was our head of people at VSCO. And I remember, I had this work I wanted one of the members of my executive team to do. And we're like, well, we'll get a 360 review and an executive coach for them because they need to work on these things. And Katie was like, great, we're going to start with you. And I'm like, I'm not the problem. Like, they are. And she's like, yeah, and we're going to start with you. And that was like a real shifting point. I think if you were to like look at pre and post that, I think pre that, I thought I had it all figured out and I was doing a great job. And it was definitely not a life defined by feedback or constant improvement. It was by leveraging my strengths and intuition, which, I don't want to like say we're entirely bad. Like I think a lot of time for founders to get something from 0 to 1, you have to really lean into those.
Oh, yeah.
Massively.
Oh, yeah.
But I think I over-indexed on that. And I remember the first 360 review I got back, I curled up in a ball.
Oh, no.
Not like
I hear
literally.
you. Yeah.
And my wife did make a comment at that point that I think was like really great. And she said, how fortunate you are that you have people that care enough to give you clear feedback. Because so many of us will go through life and people feel those things about us, but they never say it. They never even like want to invest or go through the hard work of actually giving the feedback.
That's right.
Potential negative ramifications that come from that, and then stick through the work. And so Katie, it was kind of back to that like essentialism. Like it was this long list of things that I needed to improve. And Katie just kept like breaking them down into chunks. Like, what are the top 3 things that we can work on? And I think that moment of like reflection of doing something, seeking feedback, making improvements, there's just this like constant iteration.
Yeah, it sounds like being okay with not knowing everything or having everything dialed in based on your
Actually,
strengths.
because I do think like there's like an imposter syndrome as like a founder and CEO that I always had to have the right answer. And this was something that was like, I'm never going to have it all figured out. I can say, I'm going to work on that, or that's great feedback. Let me get back to you, or that's a great question. And so one of the things that kind of came out of that was like an audit of my time that I would do on a monthly basis, which I thought was like, again, I thought I was doing great, but when it kind of came down to it and I started looking at my calendar, so I'd start the month with say where I wanted to spend my time, what I thought were my priorities for the month, how much time I thought I should be giving towards it. And at the end of the month, I would like look at it where I actually spent my time. And it was really interesting. It was like the things I didn't want to spend time on ended up taking the most time for me. And they were very disruptive. And they kind of like were constantly breaking up the important things that I wanted to be doing. And so then I started really working hard at like building out moments in my day that were like set and blocked for focus. Like, this is my time to focus on me. This is my time to focus on strategic thinking and long-term planning. This is my time for one-on-one interactions and kind of impromptu meetings. And this is my family time. And you better have a really good reason why I should do something not in one of those blocks of time. And I think at first I had to be very rigid with it. And disciplined and protective. And one of the great things is like, I explain this to people. I'm like, I need your help. If you see me doing something that, subconsciously I didn't realize I'm like not following what I said I wanted to follow, like call me out, which was great because I had a lot of people looking out for me. And I think what was really cool is like every one of those groups saw family, myself, and the team all saw improvements. And so it was kind of this like, all right, this is a good thing. Let's keep this going. And over time, it became routine and habit, and you needed less of like a check-in, and you could just like feel it, and you knew, and everyone else knew, like, if I'm going to put a meeting on Joel's calendar, it's only on these days and during this time. And we already booked Joel out for 2 nights this week. And so it was early on, I was like, I will only give 2 nights a week to work. That's it. Then it went down to, I'm only going to give 1 night a week to work. And then it's only going to be like, once a month that I'm going to do something kind of disruptive to my family time. And then it got down to like, these are the criteria. This is like the level of event of importance. And what was great is like for my wife, it'd be like, hey, I know this must be really important because you don't normally do something that's disruptive to our family. So it was met actually more with the, like, what's exciting? Like, what's happening? Like, who are you meeting with? What's the opportunity? Versus that, like, you feel like you're being grilled and questioned and everything of like why you're doing what you're doing when you're doing it.
Do your girls understand the level of commitment you put on that? Because that's also very special, right? Like the action speaks louder than words.
Yeah, it was so this is like yes and no. My hope is that maybe 10, 20 years from now, they'll know even a lot more, or they'll understand it. They'll kind of put 2 and 2 together. I think they saw the shift and they can just tell you like which time was better and when they started to see more of me. The next real big shift is even though I started doing great with my time, I didn't do great with my stress. And so I still carried that, even though I was
spilled
home.
over. Yeah.
It spilled over. And
totally.
When I was home, my mind was elsewhere. And that is one of my greatest struggles, is being able to turn off my mind. Like if I just like constantly, it's like, I don't know if you remember the old Matthew Broderick film, War Games, where it's like the computer's like doing all the like testing of every scenario. My mind's constantly like just going through scenario planning of like, if this, then that, what if this, what if I tried this? And if I'm ever working through a problem. And that's where like running and working out really helped, because I don't listen to anything. And it's actually like a time that I process what I'm working through, which helped a ton.
Oh, you don't listen to like podcast. You don't consume data, or you mean you don't listen to music either?
Don't listen to music, anything. So
oh, you just that's when you let your mind run wild.
Run wild, especially running. Like in particular with running is like my best thinking time.
I can't believe that works. I got to try that. That's awesome.
Well, so it's interesting. You'll find like, cause I wear an Apple Watch now, and you can actually like see sometimes it improves performance and sometimes it really hurts your performance. And it kind of depends upon the type of problem. Is it like a good problem? Is it a stressful problem? And you can kind of like see the impact around that. But but back to your question, like would the girls see it? Like some of it, I think they'd say is annoying, because I try and like I saw all these great benefits from these improvements I made to my life. And I'm like, well, let me apply this to like your college planning or, all these things. And it's
That's
like,
right.
there's moments, it like kind of everything, especially with teenagers, like
Yeah.
I'm learning a lot around when it's the appropriate time or just how important it is. This is actually like a book there's a podcast and a book called Connected Parenting, and it talks about connecting before correcting. And like, that is something I struggle with massively because I just like call
Solve the
right out to
problem.
the solution. And so
Yeah.
that's definitely a lot of what I'm still working on.
My curiosity is a little more selfish here, but I've heard that the dad gets a lot closer with girls as they become teenagers. Is there any truth and merit to that?
Yeah, I mean, each of my children are kind of our journey of closeness is, it's kind of its own thing. But yeah, I only have nephews, so I don't have any sons, so I don't know what that's like. But yeah, I mean, I think I've actually really been blessed, I think, with both my kids just in the relationship that we have.
It's awesome.
So it's always evolving, and I think it's the same way that I'm constantly trying to like work on improving, and it's never about a state of being done or perfect. It's just like a constant like what's right for this season, and it's not easy. It keeps me on my toes. It's definitely like
Yeah. I love how reflective you are. It sounds like you're constantly doing things and then assessing and then doing and then assessing and then adapting. That's awesome, man.
It's interesting. It's like, it feels so natural now, but it was definitely back to that kind of Katie Shields
Yeah.
moment. I don't know if I like lived that, and it was maybe this like dormant skill, but it really shifted this mode of like everything of life is about just continuous improvement and constantly learning. And I think for me, who always like kind of thinks of like, I have an answer or here's a solution, that everything's evolving and every person's different, which is nothing makes that more clear than parenting, that, each of your children, completely unique individuals, and you see bits of yourself. And I think that is one of like my lessons learned, like, oh, you're like me, therefore I can just like follow the same playbook, and no, doesn't work. So
can I switch gears a little bit and ask
Yeah.
why you stepped down from VSCO? It seems like a very interesting choice, if you don't mind me saying so. From my point of view, it's a very successful company. You're essentially branded with it, and just curious. Yeah.
So it's interesting. It was around 10 years in. I'm again kind of like big thinker, strategic planning, and both Greg and I had always talked about VSCO as this like generational opportunity. We wanted to be very careful that it was never defined by us. It was never, some founders, like the company only lives and dies with the founder. And for some it works, and for others, it was just never who we were. It's just not our style and not where we draw energy from. And so after about 10 years, I created a new 10-year plan. And that 10-year plan actually had me stepping out completely. And I then kind of worked my way back. And this was at the time I was working with an executive coaching firm that I've now joined.
That's awesome.
Because it was like such a pivotal moment in my life, new chapter kind of defined was this unlock. And my coach, Dan, at the time, worked on that 10-year plan and that vision and kind of this letter to myself, both professionally, family, and personally, of everything that I kind of wanted to see. And it was coincided with me turning 50, 25th wedding anniversary, like kind of these big, moments. And so we then look back, okay, so if that's where I want to be in 10 years, 5 years was kind of when I wanted to step out as CEO and transition to exec chairman. So I still had 5 years of like leading the long-term strategic vision and very involved with the business. And then, okay, so 5 years, if I want to transition out, what does this transition look like for it to be successful? I was like, all right, I don't just want to hire someone that day. So work our way back. And it was, all right, 3 years into this plan would be great that there's a president in place that can be working alongside, and I feel comfortable that's kind of right to lead and take over. And if I want that, like starting the search. Now, the pandemic threw a huge wrench into this because this plan was like kicking off in 2019.
Wow.
And I was like deep into this search for a president, and the pandemic hit, and it was like, I just have to hit pause. Like, this is the wrong time to bring in someone new. This is a time just to kind of,
It was tumultuous, very volatile time.
Yeah. I'd never wish it on anyone. I'm glad I was in the position personally I was in, because otherwise I don't know how I would have like handled all of it, but it still took a lot out of me. And so picked back up that search the like winter of 2020, and June of 2021 hired the president. And so, yeah, I think, the other thing that like constantly I would ask of others, and then ask for myself, like, what does VSCO need? When I asked that question to myself, it was like, I had a vision. We implemented that vision, I think did remarkable things, and I'm very proud of it. And I think it's, obviously with anything, you do some things differently, but by and large, I feel like it was a success and something I'm very proud of. But I actually, like, for the next decade, it just didn't feel like I was the right person with the right energy. And so a part of that president search was, who has a vision for the future that isn't just repeating back to me what they think I want to hear as the founder and CEO, but is actually like a new vision, or it like builds off of the foundation of it, but it's unique. And so Eric it was interesting. Like, I can look at all the interviews, and there was just so many remarkable people out there, but like, Eric had a thesis, he had a perspective. We're very similar, but I candidly think like he is just what VSCO needed for this next decade were his strong suits. It was scaling complex businesses, really thinking about kind of that, next phase. Like, I love the 0 to 1, and he's the 1 to 100 kind of thinker.
Yeah.
And it's been great. And so it's been, I could not have asked for it to have gone any better.
It's awesome, man.
So
yeah, the amount of humility you have to even recognize that and kind of reverse engineer it to reality is unbelievable, actually. That's great, man. Good for you. That's that's not normal, right? I mean, I'll tell you, I talk to founders like every single day.
Yeah. And it's important. And I mean, I think for so many of these companies too, like when you think about some of the problems look at Greg and I are still very involved. We're still very large shareholders. We're still very invested in the future and success of VSCO. It's like, I do think about it daily, work on it daily. So it's not like it's gone, but the stress level, the commitment level, the always on, like, and I think my kids would 100% say like that was the biggest shift. And I don't think they realize how fortunate we are that like I got to do that, because that's also not normal.
Yeah, seriously.
But yeah, that's been like, the amount of drop-offs and pickups at school and taking to practice, like I've gotten to really shift that investment.
So cool. Yeah, you get to be a super dad. That's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I'll let them know when I meet them. I'll make sure they fully understand how blessed they are and how grateful they should be. Yeah, so because they won't listen to you for sure, right? But I am curious, why executive coaching? So, like, what was that jump about?
So, kind of back to like a series of books and things of like, there was a book, Second Mountain, from David Brooks. And it was really interesting because like the Holly Packman Associates, which is the coaching firm I'm working with, had given it to me a while back, right? Actually, even before I wrote the 10-year plan. And I actually I started it, but I never finished it then, which is it's like rewind. Was a really big audiobook. Like every drive was a book at like 1.75x, although they just changed the app now to 1.8x, which is interesting after so many years of 1.75. But, and it's, on average was 40 to 50 books a year and constantly. Physical books were like only on vacation that I'd read. And so she gave me a physical book, didn't do it, then finally read it again. And it was like a big part of thinking about like what I wanted this next mountain in my life to be. And I do think, like, I would always say, like, people either have something to prove or something to give. And a lot of like building a team was finding the right balance of people that had something to prove versus people that had something to give.
Wow.
And, I always loved that. I love kind of like the dynamics of team building, and sometimes you get it right and sometimes you get it wrong, and sometimes you get it really wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's human nature, and it's, but I did enjoy that. And so reading this book, and I think then constantly like evaluating what are the things in my life that give me energy versus what are the things that take energy from me. coaching was one of those things, like working with people to unlock their superpowers and find impact and quality in life. Like when I look back on it, was like the things I started to learn to really love, to look forward to, constantly like walking away from, just like feeling on cloud nine. Same way you feel after like a long run, or like really, for me, like playing a soccer match, like it's just kind of that great feeling.
That's awesome.
It was definitely around coaching. And so it's something that I'm doing just on a very limited basis right now with just a few clients. And I had started mentoring, advising, investing, but it wasn't the same because it wasn't actually getting to the personal level. Like it was very business, which is fine. Like I do, and I'm still passionate about those things and I have a lot to offer there. And I love thinking through those problems with people, but it does actually almost always come back to like something personal, and it comes back to the people involved, and it comes back to, it always felt like I was out of time or not given the permission to like dive deep on the story beneath the story.
Totally.
Which is what Holly kind of always like really is probing for. And so it was just kind of like made sense. Like I like wrote all the things. I was like, I love starting ideas. It's, there's Patrick Lencioni has the Working Genius book, and like there are things that I'm good at, but they don't give me energy. Like I'm phenomenal at taking an idea and just like churning out the details needed to get it from like start to finish. But the actual like work around that is not what gives me energy. It's kind of the brainstorming ideas, thinking of
the
new
creative
things.
side of it.
Yeah. It's kind of but I tend to like take on that responsibility of the details because I am detail oriented, but it's not where I love to kind of like spend my time. I like to actually work with very capable people who are excellent at that. And so if I'm not going to have a team to handle those things, I want to be careful of what I like spend my time actually doing. So that's now I'm like helping people start businesses as they're like thinking through something. I'm kind of like joining in that phase, but not taking over the CEO role. And I think coaching is one where I could see more and more time is like that, like take that 5 years as exec chairman kind of ramps down where I hope to be. I would hope that a large portion of my time would be into coaching at that point.
It's cool.
It's like my primary thing. So
it's cool, man. And that's also awesome because it sounds like you actually really did some deep work to figure out, what makes you tick and what makes you happy. And that's also really rare. That's really good, man. What does your wife think about this change into executive coaching? Does she agree with you and your assessment of yourself?
Yeah. I think she sees, and that's a lot of how my decisions have been made is like getting that feedback from her, from what she sees, because it's like, when am I my best self? And then kind of like, okay, what happened during that time or what was a part of that? And be like, oh, you are not in a great mood. What did you just come back from? What were you doing? Or, you seem like really happy. What was it? Like, what have you been working on? Like, what caused that? So she's definitely my sounding board. She has the superpower of like listening, and she's like an empath and can just like feel and understand.
And a resource for data collection, it sounds like, because she's basically tracking things.
Yeah. She really is remarkable on that end, which I think is like, counterbalances the areas where they're not my strengths or not my initial reaction is typically not to listen. And she models that. And so I think like over time I've done a lot better at trying to work on that.
Super cool, man. Curious now though, so I have a good grasp of what you're trying to do professionally and why you did it. I'm curious if you have any kind of similar goals or like plans for dadhood and how you qualify what that looks like in this next chapter.
Well, man, I mean, I think this phase of high school is so much about, if you think of that same 10-year plan, in a very similar way of like graduating from CEO to exec chairman, like it's a pretty similar role as a dad. Like, and you're ever not done being a dad? Like,
yeah. I get what you're saying there. Yeah.
Forever their dad and will forever have that role. But this moment in time while they're at home and kind of before heading off to college, it's kind of your last bit of time to impart that, not the last, I don't want to say like it stops immediately, but it is a very important season.
Absolutely. I mean, studies say that we see our kids 88% by the 80% of our time with our kids is before they are teen. Yeah, exactly.
But we do tell them, and I think it's like we're gonna shift that with like our strategies of like where we spend time and how we spend it. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a big part of it. And so for them, for both of them, they're really big into rowing.
Oh,
And
nice.
so, yeah. And so I joined the board of directors with the rowing club. I had rowed
Heck
there
yeah.
when I was in high school. And so it's something where that's like become something that's like a shared journey joy. And it does take up a lot of time. I also have to like watch that I give enough space for it to be their own journey, not mine. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I have a feeling you're very competitive, so yeah, I can see what you're talking about. I'm filling in the lines here.
yeah, it is interesting. I had like this, my wife would joke, it was like an alter ego of JD. And like when I played tennis in high school, I would yell at myself and be like, it's kind of like when I get frustrated, it was my competitive side. And I think definitely early on, even with like VSCO, you'd see when that moment came out. And I think I've very much learned how to control it. And it's like something that I have my hand on that dial, which has been good because I think like what's interesting is like both with grades for the kids, with results in the sport that they're doing, learning that it's about their enjoyment and their growth versus any like outcome that I'm looking for. So it's like, are you having fun? What did you learn? How'd that make you feel? What are your goals with grades? What are your goals with college? What are your goals with this sport? And then I'm here to help with that. Not my expectation is that you reach this certain level, or because, for both of them, and it doesn't work. It doesn't drive and motivate people. And I learned that very early on, like managing people. I used to like drive by like, this is what I expect. And versus like, what do you think you can do? What do you want to do? In building kind of a shared plan. And that was definitely a big transition in my leadership style. And
Yeah.
I think the family side has benefited from like where I got to with that point.
Yeah, I love that because I mean, I will tell you that for me, I personally have never really had the ability to learn that secondary skill. Where you go from, well, I say it's more like 2 to 3, but I think you can get away with being a dictator all the way up to 0 to 2, but that's just my perception.
Yeah.
But yeah, I never had the opportunity to learn how to be more of a mentor, coach, or a diplomat, right? Like kind of like a giver, right? Versus I know what's going on, how we're going to do this. Let's just get it done. And I do worry about that because I do think that like I don't want my kids to like never not want to come back and hang out with me, and I think that like that's like a success criteria for me is that my kids want to come back and hang out with me. And I'm just very, very conscious right now because my kids are 6 and 8, by the way. I know I didn't tell you that. Yeah, but they're young girls, but I can already tell that I need to start adapting. Like my 8-year-old, I can't tell her, like she doesn't need me to tell her to brush her teeth or wash her hands or, you know what I mean? Like she already can do those things. And I could see that transition of like me needing to like be less dictator and more of a
Yeah. It's hard.
support,
I mean, you could ask my kids, like there's definitely days that I slide back into that and it's like, do this, do that. Why haven't you done this?
Yeah. But it's great that you had the parallel of the company at the same time that you had the kids, because that's
Yeah.
fascinating that you had your kid at the same time that you had your business. That's freaking
It's
awesome. Yeah,
yeah.
you had 2 kids at the same time,
Yeah.
essentially.
Well,
Well, 3 kids at the same time, yeah.
it was bad. Like, cause the first year of VSCO, I was still running our wedding photo business. So I was
No
working
way.
100 plus hours a week, 7 days. Like it was bad. Like my wife, like thinking about all the things we do now with paternal leave and all of that for like the
Yeah.
company, like it was one day when I was back working. Like, hey, here's mother-in-law, please help out. And
Yeah.
parents help out. And I gotta, we're launching this company. I did not do a good job then. And I think like I've paid back, I have a lot of debt to pay back, if you will,
Yeah.
from those early days on it. Yeah, it was not something that I have empathy and understand what people are going through and why that's a hard trade-off. But I now try and like, I wouldn't wish it on anyone and I wouldn't recommend it as like a successful strategy, like looking back on it.
Yeah. I know, man. That's really tough to hear. But I get it, man. I think that it's one of those things that people don't understand the amount of sacrifice sometimes it takes to do something extraordinary. There's inputs and outputs, and I commend you for it. And I'm really appreciative of how humble you are and retrospective you are, because that's also not normal for a successful tech CEO. So Good for you, at least for understanding and thinking about it and processing it and marinating it, man. That's great.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay. So I have a good grasp of what success looks like you for this next chapter, and an understanding of what you think the dadhood means for you in this next chapter. So what's the plan after that? Do you have you put some ideas on like this next after the 10 years?
Oh man, I think there's well, one of my goals of something to start was helping, basically from like a health wellness standpoint, create an impact that impacts billions of people. And so it's kind of it's a pretty cliche, like there's definitely got to be an episode in Silicon Valley about it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I can't remember on it, but it's definitely like the flavor of the month, if you will.
Yeah, it's okay.
Like longevity, health, and wellness.
It's
but
okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've, part of that like introspection, like has been a lot of like a health journey and like figuring things out. And so it's an area I haven't brought up, but that's been a large area that I've invested in over the last couple of years, is just like learning a lot about myself and things I need to be doing that are unique to myself. And that's something that one of the companies helping start is with my neighbor who's running it, is around kind of your genetics, your preventative health care, your family history.
Cool.
Like
I
bringing
love
that
that
all together. And so if you were to like ask me after the next 10 years, kind of, it would be that in that space, I've made some form of impact of like, back to that, like something to prove or something to give.
Yeah.
It's like giving, but then giving on a great scale of like impact. And so that's kind of like a lot of like where my mind's at. It's also with like the board of directors with the rowing club I'm on. There's a current, like, obviously the success of the club and the well-being of the club. But a lot of what I'm working on there is like how to build something of a legacy that changes the sport of rowing so that, where it's Oakland Strokes is the name of the club. And
nice.
I don't think the club's done a lot over the last couple of years, which has really impressed me and it's really improving. But I still think for sure the sport of rowing does not look indicative of our culture. And that's something that I want to see change, because I think it's actually a really beautiful sport with a lot of benefits, both personally and college, and just you kind of name it. I've seen the impact on myself. I've seen the impact on my daughters. And so bringing awareness and exposure of that to as many people as possible would be like another area. So these are kind of like, I'll pick these areas where it's able to provide impact at a large scale, and would hope probably of joining a few more boards, or the things that I do start are with that in mind.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for sharing. I appreciate it, man. That's awesome. It's funny because I was actually expecting you to say, I haven't thought about it yet, but it sounds like you have thought about it a lot, and you actually already have ideated quite a bit.
And I mean, I think like what's interesting, like the other kind of aspect of that is as the quantity of quality time the definition will shift as whatever my daughters choose to decide as far as a family of their own and what that may or may not look like. Our future will start to kind of include that. And so I foresee creating a lot of space for whatever that might be, that we kind of really invest in that. And that's something that, my parents have been phenomenal at. Like, I think just the investment in our family's lives and just the kids' lives, and from a grandparent standpoint, I'm excited about that phase.
That's so cool.
So, yeah.
So they're good role models for you to learn off of.
Yeah, I think they both have, it's interesting. They also had a similar like journey of transformation. I could like look back and say like somewhat over the same years, where both from their marriage as well as just who they are individually from a growth standpoint, which has been like really cool to kind of see those changes.
That's cool.
Yeah. And I think like a question I would always ask, like, what are you doing to kind of ensure that tomorrow's better than today? And I can like say that about my parents. Definitely like their marriage, their relationship, is each day is improving. I'm trying that same in kind of my marriage and
That's
in
awesome.
fatherhood, and kind of like with everything. It's like, again, that continuous improvement, and all the decisions we make are compounding as far as like where we choose to spend our time and invest.
So awesome, man. I love it. Joel, I know we're getting close to time here, and I want to make sure I ask the same questions I ask every guest, so there's some symmetry to all my shows. So I'm going to fire off my 4 rapid fire questions for you, okay?
Fire away.
Okay. One piece of advice for soon-to-be parents or parents out there that you would give?
Wow. To listen before you speak.
To your kids, I'm assuming?
Both.
Both. Got it. Yeah.
I think parenting it's like a team sport in most situations.
Oh,
and
wow.
so I think like that has been one of my biggest, I did not listen to my wife or to my kids. That's how to speak so kids will listen and listen so kids will speak, which is a great child development book that my mom had given to me. And for me in particular, it's about the listening standpoint I need on both ends.
Wow.
So,
That's powerful, man. I love that.
yeah.
One thing that you were surprised about yourself after becoming a parent.
How someone so similar to you could be so different. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
That's fun.
yeah.
Do you have a favorite book or podcast that you would recommend to anybody?
Man, there's a lot. There's a lot. Like I think like I've rattled off a few on the business side, a few that I haven't. There's a book, Peak by Chip Conley, which I've found very valuable to kind of think about from kind of applying Maslow's hierarchy of needs to kind of your customers, your team, your investors, which one that I reference a lot. And then also a book called The Advantage by Patrick Lencioni, which was a great like framework for kind of everything that I did, from meetings to scheduling. I think no book got me further along kind of growing as a leader than that. So it's one that I reference.
Awesome.
On the parenting side, it said how to speak so kids will listen, listen so kids will speak.
Yeah, I can't wait to read that. That sounds really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, Connected Parenting is another one that was really powerful. There's a child psychologist, Lisa D'Amour, that has a podcast, Ask Lisa. And so I've found an immense amount of value, like listening to kind of her insights.
Yeah.
It's kind of the parent I wish I was, if you will. Mm-hmm. And I know like she admits the same of like, she doesn't always show up the way, but like, it's definitely a lot of what I've tried to model after.
So cool. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. It's very obvious that you're consuming a lot of knowledge. Yeah. I love
it. It's kind of like that's my hobby, is really just kind of like learning and trying to grow.
Yeah. That's great, man. That's a great hobby to have. Which kind of goes into the last question, which I think I already know the answer to, but maybe you'll surprise me. When you're not trying to figure out how to navigate the next chapter of your professional life, and for VSCO and for yourself, and then not trying to be the super dad and introspective and listening and learning with your family, what do you do for fun? What's your downtime activities?
Soccer is my favorite. But like if I got to pick one thing, it would be playing soccer.
Do you wish you went pro instead of starting VSCO?
Oh no,
Okay.
enough for that. I said I enjoyed it. I'm not like, I've definitely gotten better, but it's the one time like my mind turns off in a way that it's like processing in real time. It's not a preset, defined plan. It's very humbling. I think for anyone that's like played at a high level with people that are skilled, like you see their ability to think in kind of rapid succession, and I just enjoy it. So
yeah, it's really cool, man. I mean, I actually have some commentary about it, mostly because my girls play soccer.
Okay.
And so now I've been coaching. I don't know anything about soccer, to be honest with you, in full transparency, but I'm learning because it's important to them. Now it's important to me, right? Yeah. So I'm watching the YouTube videos. I'm checking out my local Austin FC club, trying to get tickets and like trying to get involved, right? Because they're so into it. And now I'm out there, in the evenings, like kicking the soccer ball, practicing drills. And, it's like, it's a really, really like hard sport because you're already running. And like, it's not like you have your hand, it's like you're running and kicking and then doing footwork while you're running. And I'm like, wait, what? It's just a very overwhelming sport because not only are you trying to do all of that with your legs, you're also trying to like coordinate with the team, and it's nuts, man. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. I play in 2 different pickup games and try a couple days a week. And so it's definitely, that's my joy. My other would just be on the health side. Like I love kind of like learning and exploring just new ways of like improving my well-being.
It's awesome. So, yeah. It's awesome. Joel, thank you so much for this time, man. I really, really appreciate you hopping on this podcast and sharing your perspective and journey, but also just sharing your story and perspective, man. It's been really, really great.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we'll talk soon. Okay, brother?
All right. Thanks.